Hello, Woodgrove Choirs. My name is Jamie, and I am the owner of Reform Pilates Yoga. Mrs. Morgan asked me to share with you some awareness and exercise techniques that would strengthen your singing. I am a nerd about the diaphragm of the core and strengthening the core, and the exercises I'm going to teach you will help you utilize the power within that diaphragm. But first we're going to start with the feet. So I'm going to have you stand on your feet, and we're going to take a peek at what your alignment is, if you will. Each foot has its own diaphragm that responds to the diaphragmic pressure within the lungs diaphragm and also the pelvic floor's diaphragm, through the throat's diaphragm, and even into the top of the head, believe it or not. So standing on your feet, just notice if you can stand in the four corners of your feet. So feeling the inside and outside rails of the heel, and then feeling the big toe edge and pinky toe edge. Can you lift your toes up, set them back down, and then feel the four corners of your foot. Take a deep breath in. You can let your hands dangle by your side. And exhale, sigh it away. And maybe this time you inhale, lift those shoulders up. And exhale, let them go. And then do it again. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, letting it go. Good. Now pay attention here again as you breathe in. Perhaps you close your eyes. I promise I'm not doing any funky dance moves right now. Close your eyes and notice as you inhale and exhale, if you can just feel a sense of energy through your feet as you inhale and you exhale. And it might be very subtle. If you've been sitting at your desk all day long, you may feel no movement at all. But if you practice these exercises in days to come, you're going to feel more and more. So inhale, lift up off the heels, and then exhale, lower back down. And this is actually a really great energetic reset. But not only that, it can kind of release some of the tension through the body, especially around the spine. And obviously that core is connected to the spine. So just kind of thumping lightly on the heels will help to shake some vibration, if you will, through the spine. All right, now take another deep breath in and exhale, let it go. Good. Now we're going to talk about the pelvic floor today and the diaphragm of the lungs. So to make this short and sweet, and that there are way more exercises where these come from, we're going to talk next about your lungs. So if you will, take your hands and place them on your rib cage. Okay, so I like to put my fingertips right there at the end of my sternum, and then the hands just glide there along the floating ribs. As you take an inhale, you should notice that those ribs glide apart, and exhale, glide back together. Now I just kind of told you the answer to the test, but notice as you take a few more breaths here, if you tend to be a garage door breather. And what does that mean? That means as you inhale, you tend to lift up into the rib cage and you lift up in the collarbones. Okay, you're a shrugger and a rib thruster, right? If they move forward. Okay, keep breathing, and then see if you can start to reroute the breath more into the back. So if I had my hands on your back, or if you imagine a doctor with a stethoscope on your back, can you breathe into those spaces? And as you do that, you might find that your hands slide apart instead of slide up. And then take a few more breaths there. And see if you can widen into the base of your lungs, and then exhale. One more breath like that. Inhale, glide, and exhale, slide those doors back together. Now, keeping that same focus, if you will, but sharing it a little bit, we're going to move more into the pelvic floor area of this. And you're still just kind of standing here on your feet, feeling the four corners of your feet, and noticing this movement of breath. So keeping that same door slide sensation, I want you to inhale and feel that breath, not just in the bottoms of your lungs, but more to the back of your waist. We tend to belly breathe a lot. We hear that belly breath, especially in yoga, and we tend to puff out the abdomen, and it really just puts a lot of pressure on the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor gets tight, I'm trying to hold that pressure, and then the diaphragm responds to that pressure by also tightening, if you will, not really unfurling its wings as much as it could to then give you that push of air. So breathing in, maybe you place one hand here where you can feel those ribs sliding apart, and place one hand on your belly and breathing out. Now inhale, feel those ribs slide apart instead of push up and into your hand, and exhale. Now notice this bottom hand. As you inhale, you're not really pushing into that hand. Instead, you're filling up the back of your waist, but as you exhale, notice that this hand can draw up and out, right? You have to pull up towards the belly button. Inhale. A slight drop there, breathing into the hips, and then exhale. Good. So that's a good exercise to practice. Where is my breath going? Another way to strengthen the diaphragm is to take something like a TheraBand or an exercise band and tie it around your rib cage. Now, us ladies have an advantage. We wear bras. So if you put one on and you think about breathing into your bra line, that is a good exercise, okay? But to even make it more of a strengthening exercise, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to want to tie something around this rib cage. And a TheraBand is really nice, or an exercise band, because you can tie it tight. But you can tie a sweatshirt with the arms and just tie it really tight around your rib cage. If you have one handy, maybe go ahead and try it. But if you tie it around the rib cage, nice and tight, and then you take a deep breath in and breathe into that rib cage without lifting up like a garage door. Breathe out and then exhale. You're going to feel that tension, and as you breathe into that tension, you're going to start to strengthen some tiny little muscles through here called the intercostals. And as they're able to open the ribs, then the diaphragm can find some movement, because you really want to feel that diaphragm move almost like a stingray in water, or sometimes people use the image of a jellyfish where it can open and float, and then the sides come closer together. That's when the air is coming up and out. As you're singing, you're vocalizing. As you inhale, breathe in, you're kind of building some air pressure, and then exhale, you're getting rid of that air pressure. Another great image to use is to think of your rib cage like an umbrella. If you open an umbrella, you're not opening just the front of the umbrella, you're opening the entire circumference of the umbrella. So take a deep breath in, open the entire umbrella of the rib cage, exhale. Now, it will be very difficult for you to get that diaphragmatic movement if you are in horrible posture. So if you're seated, when you're practicing with Mrs. Morgan in front of your Zoom camera, and you're slouching and your tailbone is tucked under and your shoulders are curved forward, you are going to basically cut off the power of your diaphragm. So it's important for you to sit upright and tall. So on the tops of your sits bones, if you're sitting in a high back chair, you should almost feel that small little curve of the back, like you're sticking a bee stinger out, more than a puppy dog in trouble sensation, right? It's to stick the bee stinger out. Make sure here though that to look like you have good posture, you're not faking it. Oftentimes people will stand up straight or sit up straight and they'll thrust the ribs forward and they think that's standing up straight. But now my rib cage, these rib cage bones are way in front of my hip bones. So I want my rib cage to stay over my hip bones, and then breathe from that space. Think of stacking soup cans, right, if you will. If you try to knock one slightly askew, then we don't have a really good alignment. Or think of a syringe, right? So if you think of like giving a younger sibling baby medicine, or maybe you're doing the turkey baster at Thanksgiving and you use that little bit of a syringe, we need that canister to be straight, and then you use that air pressure change to get that, okay? So hopefully that's not too nerdy, but that's essentially what we're looking for. Now there are other ways to get this to move around. So we're gonna take our feet a little bit wider than our shoulders. You're gonna place your hands on your rib cage, and we're gonna do a rib glide, because the other thing that we wanna do is get these side muscles to work really well and fluidly. So putting your hands on your rib cage, the hips are gonna stay still here, and that's why our feet are wider, to remind us to keep our feet still. Hands come here right at the rib cage. We're going to glide the ribs to one side and then glide the ribs to the other. So you're going to feel like you're trying to lengthen this rib away from this hip. So glide and glide. Now, people will cheat this one a little bit, or just your body's tight, it doesn't know any better, and you'll kind of go shorter and shorter. It becomes a side bend before you know it. So think about just sliding like your cup across the table, right? Slide and slide, slide, slide. And now breathe while you do it. Kind of weird, right? Let's see if you can get that movement to glide the ribs side to side. And if you're practicing in a chair, it's also easy to do. Just keep your hips still. Now the next one you can do in an exercise ball, in a chair, or even standing, is to keep the ribs still and glide the hips. I like to bring my hips or my feet a little bit closer for this. The rib cage is going to stay still. So think of that like the face of a clock. And then you have a pendulum, okay? Think of like a cuckoo clock, right? And you have the pendulum that hangs down, or the grandfather clock. So that is going to be at the hips. The face of the clock here at the ribs stays, and then glide the hip, side to side, okay? To see if you can get these deeper core muscles to become fluid, releasing any tension through the torso so that the diaphragm can open when you need to take a good breath. If those muscles are clenched and tight, and they probably are very shortened throughout your day as you sit in poor posture, these muscles get short and not necessarily tight, like strong tight. They get tight, bound up, weak. So we want to bring some length back into those muscles. All right. Another great little stretch to do, and you can do this lying on the floor. I'm going to show you the standing version, is to take one foot and cross it over the other. So you're just going to mirror me and cross one foot over the other. Awesome. So now that foot that's in the back, that hand is going to go straight up. And then the foot that's in front, that hand's going to go up. And I'm actually going to grab a hold of my foot that's in the back, that side is going to grab a hold of the other hand, okay? So think of the back side as being your anchor side, because now we're going to anchor over to that side. Now try to keep your shoulders down out of your ears. And here again, we're trying to open up this big side body. And then you can do that on the other side. So you'll cross that over, grab a hold. So the back foot is the anchor side. That hand grabs the other wrist, and you pull gently, keeping the shoulder down and back in its pocket. That's important. So that's another good one. And then release. Good. So I'm going to teach you this weird little yoga breath. Okay. Hopefully you're maybe alone watching this Zoom. Otherwise, whoever is watching you and your family, they can join in. But it's called the lion's breath. You can actually do it during your yoga practice. But if you don't do yoga at all, it's really good to open up the dome of the throat, which goes with the dome of the diaphragm, the dome of the pelvic floor, and the foot. So if you take a deep breath in through your nose, when you exhale, you're going to actually open your mouth, stick out your tongue, and go, and feel how the dome of the back of your throat opens and how solidly your ribs can close and get that air pressure out. Take another deep breath in, and remember to breathe into the back of the lungs, to the back of the waist, sliding the barn doors open. And then a lion's breath to release. Try it again for me one more time. Inhale. Widen that rib cage, and then exhale. Good. Now, some other things to think about, even when you're sitting, is to make sure to counteract that slouch. You can do some seated cat-cows. Now, with cat-cow, we tend to thrust the ribs forward, throw the head back. It gets very pinchy in the low back. And then when we exhale, we just kind of like slouch. I want you to think instead of it being powered from your hips. So on your inhale, think about rolling your tailbone back, and notice how your spine automatically goes into extension. And then exhale, roll your tailbone under, and notice how your spine flexes from the root of the body up. Instead of the head and the shoulders leading the way, it is the hips lead the way. Okay, so the hips don't lie, Shakira said so. And then tuck this under and roll. You can also do this in cat-cow on all fours. And a way to open up the foot's diaphragm to then speak to the pelvic floor and the abdominals is to use your feet in cat-cow. So follow along. We need to find a space on the floor. I'm going to show you just one repetition of each, and then you can practice this on your own as much as you like. But you're going to place your hands directly under your shoulders and your knees directly under your hips. Now, oftentimes with cat-cow, again, we just kind of like throw the ribs down and then we like round and we throw the head around. What I want you to do instead is on your inhale to bring your toes and tuck them under. And as you tuck them under, you're going to take the tailbone up, which sends the heart forward. The chin can stay in neutral. That's your inhale, your deep breath in. On your exhale, you're going to flip the feet so the tops of the feet touch the floor. Push into the floor through the feet. And feel the tailbone tuck under, and the rest of the spine responds. Okay, so taking a few repetitions of cat-cow, finding a nice steady rhythm is also a really great diaphragmatic strengthener. So that's a good exercise to use as well. One more exercise to finish here today is something that we borrow from Kundalini Yoga, and that is a little rotation with the breath. And it's a very fast staccato breath to build the efficiency and quickness of your breathing through the diaphragm, so it's not always that long sustained breath. So you'll actually find your way down. If you want to be super nerdy about this, you're actually going to like almost sit on one heel, so it's right in the pelvic floor, which helps you regulate pressure through your pelvic floor, and then the other foot's just going to come in front. Hands go to the shoulders, elbows are wide. Hands can remind the shoulders to stay out of your ears. And then we're going to twist. To the left, your left, which would be here probably, is going to be your inhale. And to your right is your exhale. Okay? So as you go left, it's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And you start to make it this pumping breath through your nose. But at first, if you're trying to strengthen your diaphragm, you exhale through your mouth. But instead of blowing a little, like you're blowing out a birthday candle, I want you to think instead that you're trying to fog a mirror that's steamy from your shower, or maybe you're fogging a mirror on a cold winter day, so it'll sound more like this. To the left for your inhale, to the right for your exhale. Eventually, as your diaphragm gets stronger, you can feel that same muscular change from an inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose. Which is also sinus clearing. It's part of Ayurveda yoga or Kundalini yoga as well, where we clear the nasal passages, which is really important during this time of year because of allergies and the seasonal change ahead, the dry air that comes into the head, which can congest the singing voice as well. So just eventually going nose in, nose out as well. Okay, so there's lots more that came from. Maybe I come back some other time to teach you some more. But for now, start there. Take good care of your diaphragm and have a beautiful day.